All right, welcome to Stitch Mania Day 1. Here we are with my Day 1 project. This is actually, as you can see, is a whip. I kind of changed my rotation a little bit, not really rotation, my flow, in that I was going to do 2 whips and 1 start, but since I added a bunch of additional new starts, I will be doing 1 whip and 2 new starts throughout the month of May. So I'm starting with a whip. This is the Linen and Threads Mystery Stitch Along for 2017. As I said in my video, it's now no longer a mystery. It is finished. I am just starting the May bands, and I wanted to show you what those are before we get started. So this one here and this one, these two, I'm getting a little bit pixelated when I do that, but these two are the May bands, these two here. So that's what I'll be working on today. I'll actually just be working on the skinny one. So let me show you, let me go back to the pattern. Set up there, and then so this is what I have so far. I don't think I have shown this one in a Flosstube video yet because I haven't picked it up recently. So I did a little bit of a prep start down here on the May band, but I wanted to show you the rest of it. Excuse me. All right, so these colors, the pattern calls for one color, or is stitched in one color, and a lot of people did do it in one color, and it's lovely. I've mentioned before that I'm such a color person. I don't think I would get bored. I've never tried to do something like this in one color, and I will someday, and I may love it. It certainly would take the guesswork out of all of this, because that is one thing that every time I start a new band, I have to decide what colors I'm going to use where. Now, this particular color palette came to me easily. I actually had many moons ago, a kit that was supposed to be a coverlet for a bed. I think it was queen size. So I had a complete kit that had a stamped pattern on it. Backing, I don't think it had the batting. I think it did have backing because I think you even were supposed to do some quilting on it maybe. And then all the floss for it. So this was the floss. This was the palette that was included in that kit. I never separated. I kept it all together in the bag that it came in, and it was just sitting there waiting for me. So when I saw this project, and this is actually one of the first things I started when I picked up stitching again last summer. So I had everything. This is linen that I'd had in my stash. I don't remember where I got it. So I had everything already. I could just start stitching. So I was happy to join in on that stitch along. And actually it might have been September when I started this, because the stitch along was quite a ways along. So this is my first time doing a stitch along video. I hope I hope this works out okay. I stitch in hand, and this is going to be a huge piece. I have a lot of fabric here. I have a lot of fabric rolled up here, so it is a little bulky to stitch in hand with all this fabric. But I just kind of have it rolled up and clipped together down there. I roll up the side to hold in my hand, and I roll it so that I'm not touching the front of the stitches too much. I do when I'm stitching some. So let's see how this goes. So I have started, like I said, a little bit just so I knew my placement was right. I have my pattern over here on my iPad. I'm going to have to do some counting here. Hold on one second. Okay, 11. So I hope you guys are all super excited for Stitch Mania. I certainly am. I have enjoyed seeing and hearing about everybody's projects and plans, people that are doing all new starts, people that are doing a whip mania like Carolyn at Off the Grid Fiber Arts. and really pretty much everything in between. This is my first time doing Stitch Mania. Like I said, my plan, I have, if you watched my Flosstube video that I put up yesterday, you'll know that I have like 21 new starts that I will intersperse in between my whips so that I'm touching everything. A lot of people have said that they couldn't do a lot of new starts, that it would kind of freak them out and stress them out too much, and I can totally understand that. Quite frankly, I don't know how this is going to make me feel. I'm excited now, excited to get started, excited to share with you every day. It may get to be too much for me. I just don't know. But like I said in my video yesterday, I have all these charts. I have the materials to do them. I have to get a few flosses, but other than that, why not, right? Why not start them and put some stitches in them? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okie dokie. So like I said, the hard part of doing this kind of piece is choosing what colors to use where. You know, having the basic color palette all set up certainly helps, but trying to decide what colors to use where. And I find that what really helps me is to go, because so many people have finished this, it helps me to go and look at the finished pieces and get a feel for, you know, it's kind of hard looking at a chart or even looking at the like the finished, sorry about that, I just bumped my setup. The finished piece that I just showed you, I mean, it's not really a finished piece, it's their computer generated, I don't even know what to call it, sample, I guess, that they put up on their website. It's kind of hard to get a feel for what part of the motifs should go together. Kind of like, what part is a leaf? What part is a flower? What part is just a decoration? You know, that kind of thing. So it really does help me to look at the finished pieces and get a feel for how things flow. For this particular band, so in between here, there is what looks to me like a pomegranate. I'm going to do the pomegranate in this burgundy. I believe that's a 315. And then there's these kind of arches that go around it. That's all going to be in gold. So on this particular band, I'm just going to have this green, which is 3052, I believe, on either side of the burgundy pomegranate, and then the gold interlacing between it. All of my bands are separated by this dark green color. And I guess what I try and do is, like, I was thinking I was going to use one of these blues in this band because I haven't used a blue in a while. I couldn't figure out how to make the motifs mesh, so I think I'll make sure and use the blue in the second May band. But yeah, so it's just kind of like, and I try not to second guess myself once I've decided what I'm going to use, pretty much because, I mean, anything is going to look really neat, right? The color palette works together. Anything I choose is going to look, you know, I guess it would help if I got on screen. See, this is a learning process. I have to figure out how to stitch around my apparatus here. But I think anything I choose is going to look, nice. So I try not to second guess myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So like I said, I do stitch in hand. I just find it easier to just pick up and start stitching than dealing with all the apparatus. I use the sewing method, as you can see. I have my middle finger underneath here, and the needle just kind of bumps off. Let me get this up here. I know this light is kind of casting a shadow, but I need more light to do this. The needle kind of bumps off that middle finger, and then I kind of use my thumb to push down and guide the needle through the next hole. I find this much faster. When I do use a Q-snap, I don't have a floor frame, so if I use a Q-strap, I do have Q-snaps. I have different scroll frames that I'd gotten over the years, all bundled up in a bin in my closet. If I do happen to use one of those, like my chatelaine, my Taj Mahal mandala is on a Q-snap, and when I do use it, I kind of have it propped up on my legs and on different things so that I can stitch two-handed. So when I am using a frame, I stitch two-handed. Anything to make the stitching go faster. Now this is going to be very interesting to do when I'm stitching one of my 1/1 pieces, because I need to, of course, keep this in front of the camera so you can see it, but I need to be able to see it too. So yeah, like I said, this is going to be an interesting learning experience. I don't know that I have stuff to talk about every day. I was going to look and see what time I started this, because I really only want to keep these to 15 or 20 minutes. I'm actually doing this a little earlier today than I will on the other days probably. My plan was to do my videos, like my morning routine. That looks funny about that. Did I not get the hole right? I think I went down one hole too far on that one. Oh, no, I didn't. All right. Let me take a drink of my infused water here. So my plan in doing these was my morning routine is I work out with a friend at 7:30, and then I would come back and have breakfast and shower, and then I'd do the videos after that. Well, my friend is not feeling well this morning, so we didn't do our morning workout. Oh, shoot, I'm sorry. Gotta get used to all this. We didn't do our morning workout. It's actually supposed to go up to 78 here today, so when Mike gets home, we're going to go out for a walk this afternoon. But anyway, so because I didn't do my morning workout, I actually haven't eaten breakfast yet, I thought I would just go ahead and get this done and get it out there. Now you'll see that for these stitches, I'm actually going under and grabbing, doing the stabbing method. Whenever the stitch is at an angle like that, like, you know, I came down through, I'm off camera anyway, so I'm sorry. I came down through here, this hole. I have to come up, I'm skipping one and coming up here. I have a hard time doing that, doing that angle. So when I need to, I'll do the stabbing method. So do one, skip one, do one, skip one, do two. Do one, skip one, do one, skip one, do two. Is that how you count? That's how I count. It's kind of how I count in knitting too. Knit 3, yarn over, knit 3, yarn over. Little chunks seem to suit my brain better. I guess that's what I do when I'm doing color work with knitting. One white, one color, one white, one color, one white, two color, one white, two color, one white, you know, that kind of thing. So I thought I would, when I run out of things to mumble on about, I thought I would do one of the needleworker tags. I found that there's a website out there that has kind of compiled a bunch of the needleworker tags. So I thought, am I off camera again? This is going to be hard. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry for apologizing all the time too. All right. So that one, and then skip one and do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I thought I would do the knitting, know your needle worker tag if I can get to that website without bumping the camera too much. All right, so first couple of questions. Where do you live and what do you do for a living? Well, that won't take long. So as you know, we live in, I've mentioned before, I live in Maryland. I live in a little town called Odenton, which is right by the Army base, Fort Meade. My husband works on Fort Meade. He's a civilian for the Defense Department. And we wanted to be close when we moved back here. We lived in Maryland for 25 years, both of us working for the government. I actually quit in 2005 when the kids started getting into school, and he continued. We moved to Sarasota. His book sales took off so well in 2011 that he was able to quit work. I keep going down there. He was able to quit work, and we took an anniversary trip to Sarasota, fell in love with the Sarasota area, and decided to move there. So we lived in Sarasota from 2012 to 2017. The book sales dropped off enough that Mike was worried that, I'm wondering if that's causing more harm than good, that light. The book sales dropped off enough that Mike felt he needed to see if he could get rehired by the agency, and he did. So he came back up in February of 2017, started then. I stayed in Sarasota until our younger son, Ben, graduated high school and started his college up in Orlando, and then I came up here in August. So, back to Maryland, so we haven't been back here all that long. But he wanted to move. We didn't want a house, we wanted an apartment, and there's several nice apartment complexes here in this area. He wanted to be close enough to work that he wouldn't have to have a bad commute, because he used to commute a half hour every day to and from work. So there's a shuttle here that he can take to get into work. We only have one vehicle, our Jeep, so he can take the shuttle in and back, so I can have the Jeep if I need it for the day, or if he gets up early enough, and because the parking is really bad. So if you don't get in at like 6 o'clock, you're parking out and you have like a 10 or 15 minute walk just to get into the building. It's kind of crazy. Guys, I want you to let me know. I mean, I know going off the screen is kind of annoying, and I will work on my placement for that. I want you to let me know about everything else with this, like this light. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. That might be better. Not necessarily better for me. The camera pulls in enough light so that it's nice and light for you. I have my blinds open here next to me, so that brings in a lot of nice light, but it's a little dark for me. So let me know how I can refine this. Let's see if that works and have it angled differently. I have an aught light that has a gooseneck on it that I can spin it around, because I'm afraid it's casting shadow for me. I'm afraid it's casting shadow for you. So we need to work out some kinks. Tell me what works and what doesn't. Because we're going to be together every day here for the month of May. Let's make sure we like our time together, huh? So the other question was, what do I do for a living? I'm a housewife. I do cross stitch and knitting all day. It's a tough old life, right? Yeah, I worked in I was a linguist for my professional job. I learned, I was a German major and Spanish minor in college. Never used those languages again. Once I got hired by the federal government, they taught me a bunch of different languages. I love languages. It's always been a passion of mine. So I worked at the agency for 18 years as a linguist. Let me see where I am. 1, 2, okay. And then when I quit work in 2005, I started doing scrapbooking. Well, I started doing scrapbooking when I had my boys. But I started working in the field, I guess I would say. I started a small business of my own doing commissioned scrapbook albums for people. I worked in a scrapbook store here in Maryland for a short time, and then I discovered digital scrapbooking. I've always been kind of a computer geek. And so I started with a online scrapbook store called Scrap Girls, creating digital scrapbooking products. I was also kind of head of their education department, if you will, hiring teachers and helping them create classes. All the classes were online classes. So helping the teachers create their PDFs and what kind of topics to do, and then the classes were held in like a online meeting type of software, and so I would help them with their classes too. So that was fun for a while. I really enjoyed that. I really love digital scrapbooking. I like not having all this stuff. I did stamping, did all kinds of things. Then when we moved to Sarasota, I knit during that whole time too. I didn't really stitch a whole lot at that point. That's when I kind of stopped stitching. I did buy the chatelaine mandala at some point in the early 2000s and did it here and there, just little bits at a time. I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go here. I think I'll do single ones across here. So yeah, I worked in the yarn store down there for 3 or 4 years. And then we moved back up here, and I taught a little bit at a yarn store here in Annapolis, but decided I was really burnt out. And so I'm not doing anything now except sitting and stitching and knitting and talking to you guys. And as I've mentioned in my other videos, my husband loves to cook too. He loves his Instant Pot, so he does most of the cooking too. I do the cleaning. I try and... I'm not the best housekeeper. I'll admit that freely. I come from a line of... Well, my mother wasn't a very good housekeeper. My grandmother... You know, we're all crafty people. They were both crafty people. Something about that in housework doesn't go along too well. So, and you know, since we're hopefully going to be moving in the not too distant future, it really doesn't make sense for me to get a job anyplace. And we're living comfortably without it, as long as I don't blow my budget on cross-stitch stuff. So, I think I'm going to stop there. I am going to continue with this today. And tomorrow morning I will show you the progress that I made on this, and then I will start my next one. So tomorrow's project, let me find it, if you don't mind my arm in the screen, because I do have them all listed out. I keep all of my notes in Evernote. I find that to be a very handy tool. Tomorrow I will be starting the Cross-Eyed Crickets December, so I am looking forward to that. It was fun visiting with you today. I hope you will come back tomorrow. Have a great day, guys.